What can really only be described as a callous and reckless move, the Trump administration effectively pulled the rug straight out from under Medicaid websites around the country by freezing federal funding for critical programs. And this was a decision that was part of this broader halt on federal grants and loans that fortunately a judge has stepped in and said, no, Trump can't do this. At least give us until February 3rd to deal with it in courts. And this is truly poised to wreak absolute havoc on millions of low-income Americans, people who rely on Medicaid for their health care needs. And it's all being framed as an effort by Trump to align federal spending with Trump's so-called priorities. But we really have to call this what it is, and we knew it would happen. We've been talking about who's going to get screwed the most. This is a politically motivated attack on essential services, and it will disproportionately affect the most vulnerable people in our society. And the administration is saying, oh, the direct assistance programs, Social Security, Medicare, we're not going to touch it. But the amount of ambiguity that surrounds Medicaid funding has left states and healthcare providers and patients in a very understandable state of panic. Now, here is the commentary from elected officials from around the country as they realized what was going on and as this started. Here is Congressman Maxwell Frost from Florida, who tweeted, quote, "Just confirmed that the Trump administration shut down the Medicaid portal for Florida. There are over 3.8 million Floridians on Medicaid." Here is Senator Chris Murphy from Connecticut. "Can confirm Connecticut's Medicaid payment system has been turned off. Doctors and hospitals cannot get paid. Discussions ongoing about whether services can continue. Medicaid covers health care for millions of seniors and covers 40% of births in America." Senator Brian Schatz from Hawaii. "Multiple states locked out of Medicaid portal. This is a Trump shutdown, except this time it's unlawful." We're going to talk in a moment about the legality or lack thereof. And Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's office reported, quote, "The Trump funding freeze has shut the state out of the federal health care program. Medicaid covers nearly 4 million people in Illinois." So the broader context here is that this is the latest in a series of actions by the Trump administration to undermine the social safety net. This is what they alluded to wanting to do, mixed in with, oh, we would never touch this, we would never touch that. But for the slashing of foreign aid and slashing funding for life-saving medications, gutting diversity programs, imposing hiring freezes, the message could not be clearer. The priorities for Trump are not with the average American person. It's his ideological agenda as informed by the tech bro elites and the nativists and the nationalists. And it's really just a stark reminder that it didn't matter what he said during the campaign about who he's going to defend and support and the average Joe and the average Jane. He doesn't care. And this is an administration that does not care. This, if it's allowed to go forward, because again, understand, Trump did it and a judge said, sir, you can't do that. If it's allowed to go forward, it'll cost lives, it'll deepen inequality, it'll leave states scrambling to pick up the pieces. And why? Just to satisfy Trump's obsession with dismantling government programs that don't align with his vision and dismantling anything that he associates with a predecessor, especially if the predecessor was a Democrat rather than a Republican. Imagine being, and I know that I know there's people in my audience on Medicaid, many of you. Imagine being one of the people in my audience, or one of your neighbors, or yourself, who over the last 24 hours, all of a sudden were told, as a doctor, I am no longer able to connect to the Medicaid program. If that's how you plan to pay for this visit, then I can't see you unless you're willing to sign that you're going to pay out of pocket. A lot of people have to sign that anyway, generically, like if we can't collect from your insurance, you owe us money. That's becoming a reality for people. Will states be able to keep their Medicaid websites running? And maybe most importantly, How many lives are going to be lost because of this disastrous decision? How many people's treatment is going to be delayed because of what Donald Trump is trying to do? So thankfully, the judge has said not so fast after some number of hours of this going on, but we're only a few days from when it could become a legal reality. And I want to now focus on the fact that every indication is that what Trump did is against the law. Once again, Donald Trump's cabinet picks are all about loyalty over expertise. Election denier Kari Lake to lead Voice of America, the government-funded broadcaster meant to report unbiased news. Ground News found hundreds of articles covering this story, which is an app I've trusted for years to help me critically analyze the news I consume. Our sponsor, Ground News, doesn't tell you what to think. They show you each news outlet's biases, credibility, financial incentives, so you know who's benefiting from the spin they put on each story. You can even filter out certain sources you don't want, so you can stay informed without getting buried in the noise. Trump is shaping our future in ways that will last decades. And if we're not paying attention, we will allow history to repeat itself. So stay engaged with Ground News, who is fixing what is breaking right in front of us, the trust and transparency in the media. Ground News is giving my audience 50% off the same Vantage plan that I use. Go to ground.news/Pacman. The link is in the description, or scan my QR code.